Have you ever wondered what the largest international airline serving the US is? Probably not, but in case it wasn't obvious, Air Canada is the answer, with service to 51 American airports. Many of Air Canada's US routes are operated by regional subsidiary Air Canada Express, and that's who we're flying today on a quick 1-hour flight from Toronto to Philadelphia, featuring the most unique regional jet I have ever flown. It's a beautiful good morning from Toronto Pearson International Airport's Terminal 1, where despite having a short flight across the border, we're here a good 3 hours early, as is good practice for an international flight. We had checked in online but made a brief stop to drop our one checked bag, which was easy enough. Checked bag fees may vary depending on where you're traveling, but at least between Canada and the US, Air Canada charges $30 for the first bag and $40 for the second. Most major airports in Canada offer US pre-clearance, meaning following security, you pass through US immigration, so once you land in the States, you're treated like a domestic passenger. Security and pre-clearance were pretty straightforward, and here we are airside. Terminal 1 has plenty of shops and restaurants, and I have to say, the duty-free shops here have some pretty cool souvenirs that are worth checking out. It's always great when duty-free shops offer products like this besides the usual perfumes and chocolates. Terminal 1 is used by Air Canada and its Star Alliance partner airlines, along with Air North, Canadian North, and Emirates. As such, the only US-bound flights using Terminal 1 are from Air Canada and United. All others use Terminal 3. Now, even though it seems like one terminal, Terminal 1 is actually divided into 3 areas. The D gates primarily serve Canadian domestic flights, with 7 of the D gates also classified as F gates to serve US flights. The E gates are only located at the Hammerhead portion of the terminal and serve non-US international flights. However, all E gates except E74 to 77 also double as F gates for US flights. Finally, the dedicated F gates in Terminal 1 exclusively serve US flights. An expansion serving gates F84 to F99 was added in 2019, and as you might be able to tell, reaching it requires a decent walk. You first take an escalator down and then pass through a narrow walkway before reaching these gates. Now, this area of the terminal is nothing special. There are limited retail and food options, so plan accordingly. There is a small express Maple Leaf lounge, but of course the proper good lounges would be in the main area of Terminal 1. I've said it before and I'll say it again, it always impresses me just how many American cities you can reach nonstop from Canada, especially Toronto. Because so many of these cities are a short distance away, Air Canada Express operates most US flights from Toronto, and their flights are easily identifiable because they're always 4 digits long, beginning with the number 8. With that in mind, we're on flight 8930 to Philadelphia this afternoon, departing from gate F99. Now, F99 isn't an actual gate like you'd imagine, and you'll see what I mean later. The gate areas in this part of Terminal 1 have plenty of seating and power outlets, though it was a struggle to find outlets that actually worked. Now, here's something you don't see every day, especially these days. This is a Volga Dnipro Airlines Antonov 124 registered Romeo Alpha 82078. But wait, what's a Russian registered aircraft doing in Canada? Well, this plane has been stranded in Toronto since February 2022. The aircraft had arrived delivering rapid COVID tests, and 2 hours after it landed, Canada closed its airspace to all Russian aircraft following the invasion of Ukraine, meaning the plane was stuck in Toronto indefinitely. Canada subsequently imposed sanctions on Volga Dnipro Airlines and officially seized this aircraft in June 2023. It's been sitting here ever since and has accumulated over $500,000 in parking fees. There is no update on what will become of this aircraft. People say it's going to be transferred to Ukraine, but I don't know how true that is. Eventually, our CRJ 900 for today pulled in from Cleveland. Charlie Golf November Juliet Zulu is just shy of 19 years old and was originally built as a CRJ 705. The CRJ 705 was basically a 900 with just 75 seats, and these were exclusively operated by Air Canada Express, previously known as Air Canada Jazz, to comply with Scope Clause regulations. Eventually, the 705s were all converted to a standard CRJ-900 configuration to have 76 seats, with the last aircraft being converted in 2018. Boarding eventually started on time, and this being a regional jet with limited overhead bin space, most passengers, including us, were advised to gate check their carry-on suitcases, which we would drop off once by the aircraft. Now, as I said, F99 is not a normal gate, but it definitely starts out that way. You first walk through a glass jet bridge before eventually entering a covered walkway. F99 is actually just an umbrella term for multiple remote stands used by regional jets, and as you can see, each stand has a letter to differentiate it from the others. I can imagine this would be pretty brutal in the harsh Canadian winters, but in the hot summer, it's pretty awesome. Air Canada Express operates 35 CRJ-900s, and these aircraft, along with the Q400s and Embraer 175s, are operated by regional subsidiary Jazz Aviation. The CRJ-900 has 76 seats consisting of 12 in business class with a 1-2 configuration and 64 in economy with a 2-2 configuration. Regional jets, and especially CRJs, are infamous for bad window alignment and missing windows, so rows to definitely avoid would be rows 18 and 27. I'm in 23F for today, which cost $14 to reserve online. The seats don't have adjustable headrests but are still nicely padded, so not much to complain there. Now, here's what makes Air Canada's regional jets arguably the coolest out there. All of its CRJ-900s and Embraer 175s have seatback TVs, the only such examples in the world, I think, but these haven't been updated since the planes were built, so they either don't work or are very slow. There's also a USB-A port that I didn't bother checking if it worked or not, and then a tray table and large seat pocket. The seat pitch is pretty decent at 31 inches, perfectly good for this hour-long flight. Above the seat are air vents, reading lights, and call buttons. Now again, CRJs aren't especially known for having good window alignment, and the vast majority of seats on the Air Canada CRJ-900s have misaligned windows. As you can imagine, I had to lean quite a bit forward just to look out the window, which, to make matters worse, was the dirtiest window I've ever had. We'd be departing off runway 23 this afternoon, which meant taxiing past all of the terminals. There was a lot of cool stuff to see along the way, such as Charlie Golf Hotel Kilo X-Ray. 3 years ago, I saw this exact same Air Canada A330 and some others in Rockford as they were being stored there during the pandemic. 3 years later, it's still in the old livery, but great to see it again as it gets ready for a flight to Frankfurt. This was my first time since I think 2019 seeing an Etihad 777-300ER. Toronto is the final city in North America still getting Etihad 777s, but not for much longer, as Etihad will finally replace it with the new A350-1000 from October 27th. Continuing past Terminal 3, here's an Air Transat A321neo going to the hangar after arriving from London Gatwick. Aside from various international airlines, Terminal 3 houses most of the other major Canadian airlines, as you can see here. Now, Air Canada recently retired their Boeing 767s from passenger service, but many of them have since been converted to freighters. And here's a former Air Canada Rouge example, still in the Rouge colors, but now wearing Air Canada cargo titles.
Wash wear your seatbelt at all times. It's prohibited to smoke, to use electronic cigarettes, or to consume your own alcohol on board. On today's flight, we'll be doing a Bravo service as well as a premium snack. Thank you for choosing Air Canada Express and enjoy your flight. Nous vous encourageons à boucler votre ceinture en tout temps. Il est interdit de fumer, d'utiliser des cigarettes électroniques ou de consommer son propre alcool à bord. Sur le vol d'aujourd'hui, nous offrons un service d'aide.
As mentioned earlier, the screens on this aircraft weren't working, which was unfortunate since I was looking forward to try and use them. Major emphasis on the try because I've heard when they do work, they're notoriously unresponsive. The screens can be tilted up and down, which is always appreciated, and the USB port here is the only source of power in the economy seats, as only business class have universal power outlets. Also, I didn't realize before, but the headphone jacks are located in the armrests. When it came to refreshments, I went with a ginger ale as my drink because we are flying from Canada after all, and the snack was either pretzels or a chocolate biscuit, which was great as expected. Other than that, the flight was uneventful and smooth, and shortly after passing Harrisburg, we began our descent. This was my first time in over a decade flying to Philadelphia. I vaguely remember passing through here while connecting during the US Airways hub days, but I'm not too sure. Our approach brought us in from the west, passing the suburbs and center city on downwind, before turning right back around and landing on runway 27 right.
Local time 4:30. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and carry on items sold until the captain has switched off the seatbelt sign. Smoking is not permitted, but bill receiving intention consume may not be used. Before leaving the aircraft, please make sure you have all the personal instant device. If you're connecting to another flight today, please refrain to the screen inside the terminal. If you have any questions, please ask customer service agent inside the terminal. If you need any help, please stay seated. On vous reste sur Star Alliance pour votre voyage aujourd'hui. Nous espérons que le vol a été agréable et nous espérons vous revoir très bientôt.
So, Air Canada Express, not bad. I mean, you can't ask for much on a 1-hour flight, and at least for this route, they're definitely the better option when comparing them to American Eagle's Embraer 145. The entertainment screens on these CRJs are super unique, but don't expect them to work. I don't know if there are plans to update or remove them completely, but Air Canada used to fly these CRJ 900s on longer routes like Chicago-Vancouver, so having working entertainment on flights like those would be helpful, especially if the Wi-Fi costs money. Aside from the wacky window alignment and dirty windows, there wasn't anything else particularly negative, and it was a good overall flight.
Aircraft off to our left to start its taxi, so just please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Thank you.
We arrived a couple minutes late, but our delay was further exacerbated by another plane suffering an unexpected mechanical failure. Air Canada uses Terminal D in Philly, and the taxiway to access our gate was blocked by a brand new Frontier A321neo, which ironically had a mechanical issue as it was trying to taxi out. The captain kept us updated about the whole situation, and eventually, because we were starting to block other planes on the taxiway, we had to do a quick loop around as the ground crews towed the Frontier aircraft back to the gate. In case you were wondering, that flight eventually departed 2.5 hours late. Given we had cleared US immigration in Toronto, we walked off the aircraft as if we were domestic passengers. Philadelphia is a pretty cool airport. It's one of the only airports that I know of in the US where every terminal has a commuter rail station, which you can sort of see off to the left. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you found the video enjoyable, and stay tuned for more coming out as time goes on. Until next time, take care and see you very soon.